you can see below, there are 3 key tabs at the bottom. The first includes zone information, key temperatures, and a planting key that we'll use as reference for the vegetable planner in tab 2 here. So at the top, you'll see that there is an area to enter in your zone, and this can be found by just clicking on the cell labeled zone here, and you'll see a note that shares to go to this site, the plant hardiness site. What you'll do is you'll type in your zip code to find your plant hardiness zone, and then you'll just enter it in here. It's always helpful to know your plant hardiness zone because as you're reading seed packets, it'll actually tell you what zones are appropriate to grow that particular variety. The next step is to understand what your frost dates are. So your last frost date is usually for the fall, the last frost date is for the spring, and the first frost date is for the fall. If you click into this cell, you'll see that there's a site here, the almanac site, where you can type in your zip code to see your frost dates and your growing season time, which you'll enter into this cell here. For us, it's 186 days. The next thing we wanted to show is the temperature guide. So this will actually be helpful in your vegetable planner as you are determining when it's appropriate to start planting different varieties of vegetables outside in your garden. So we've used blue for anything below 32 Fahrenheit, which is below freezing. Green is a symbol for temperatures within 33 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the cool zone. Those are great for starting to grow radishes, turnips, leeks, onions, beets, and then the rest that you see on the screen here. The yellow is an ideal growing temperature for growing vegetables within 55 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. We call this the sweet spot. Most crops will grow here with warmer temperatures that'll speed up the growth of that plant. And then lastly, in red, this is the heat zone. This is good for your hot crops if you're living in a very hot climate. Perfect for 85 to even 110 degree Fahrenheit weather. So you can grow pumpkins, tomatoes, okra, peppers, collards, just to name a few in that temperature zone. Lastly, you've got your planting key here. So this will allow you in your vegetable planner to use the key so that labels on the left-hand side, so you're not having to type out these longer phrases here for each step and each thing that you plan to do that week. So for instance, when you see an SS, that means you're starting seeds indoors. When you see a P, that means you're wanting to prune that particular plant. When you see F, that means to add fertilizer that week. And this all makes sense as we dive into the vegetable planner here down below in tab 2. So you'll want to go ahead and click into vegetable planner here. And what we've already done is we've already frozen some of these columns and rows. So as you navigate in this spreadsheet, you'll see all the crops listed here. Down below you see tomato, lettuce, dill, celery, and so forth. We've included an area for notes, what variety that particular crop is, the type, if it grows just once a year or if it grows every year and it comes back for you, what the spacing needs are. So this is really helpful when you are mapping out your garden and your garden space. So you can see, a tomato needs 18 inches, whereas lettuce only needs 2 inches. And compare that to, say, sage, which needs 12 inches of growing space. Then, as you move along, you can see days to maturity. So you'll want to just read the seed packets to know the spacing needs and the days to maturity, and you'll just type those in here. So we've already got a pre-populated spreadsheet for you and template to use as reference. We've got 21 awesome varieties of crops here for you to use. So in order to use this guide, you will want to look up the climate data for your city. So you'll go to this website here, and it'll actually tell you the typical highs and lows by the month or by the week, by the day actually. what I did was I looked at the data by the month and just sort of eyeballed week by week what the highs and lows were. You don't have to actually like do the exact math, just eyeball it. So this is helpful because once you come in here, I've included a note here to type in the average highs and lows and how to do that. But basically, what you'll do is you'll type in the number in each of these cells. And when you do that, the cell will auto-populate to the color that corresponds to the temperature guide here. So that in the future, when you're just glancing at your chart, you know, oh, this is it's green for cooler crops, or it's red for the hot zone. Maybe I should not plant then for certain varieties. So here you can see it's already I've already listed the key temperatures for zone 7A, and if I change this cell here to like 90 degrees and click enter, it automatically turns to red. If I do 32, it'll go back to blue, and I think it was at 29. So I'll just leave it at that. But you can see that the colors will automatically change. The other great advantage to using this template is that if you do week by week and you want to plan out your calendar by the week, and you don't want to start on the 9th of March, say you want to start on like May 11th. You can always come in here, change the months at the top manually, and then here, this is the only cell you need to change by your based on your start date. So say you want to change it to 5/11, you do that. It automatically changes the rest of these cells for you on a week-by-week basis. So I think I had here, it was 3/9, and we'll just leave it at that. So that's how you organize, and that's how you sort of start building out your own template once you have copied this one. And say you're going to use all these crops here that we've listed. I'll give you an example. So say I'm interested in growing tomatoes and I just want to know more about tomatoes. When I click on tomato, it'll take me to sheet 3 with the plant growing notes. And that'll include all the information you need to know about growing tomatoes, how deep to sow them, when to start, what they need, when to fertilize, how to set up a trellis system or use a Florida weave, and so forth. And we've done that for all of the varieties that we've listed in this vegetable planner. So say, I want to learn more about rosemary. Just click here. It'll take me right to the rosemary cell, how to grow rosemary, and so forth. So I'll come back to the vegetable planner and show you what we've got for the tomato here. So we've listed the crop tomato. We've included notes that we want to seed start, and I want to do 6 plants, and I want to consider buying a trellis. I actually only want to plant 2 tomato plants, but I'll start seeds for 6, knowing that some of them might fail. I've included my variety, Sun Golds. If you've never had a Sun Gold tomato, they're awesome. They pop in your mouth and they taste delicious. They're very large, so they need 18 inches for spacing, and they take 57 days to mature. As I go through this planner here, I'll see that I'm going to start my seeds on 4/27, which means that I have 6 weeks before I will transplant outside. And then from there, I've got 9 weeks until I can probably harvest my first round, my second round, my third round, my fourth round. And I kind of left the rest blank because I don't know how my tomato plants are going to grow, and I'll fill in the blanks as we reach closer to that date. Now what's cool is that in bed 1, I've got my tomato plants, but then I've also got my lettuce. Lettuce is a cold crop, as you'll see here in the cool zone lettuce, which means, I've got all this time before I can actually transplant my tomatoes in June, where I can actually use that space that I plan to plant 2 tomato plants, and I can plant this cold vegetable, the lettuce, early. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct seed some lettuce seeds on April 27th, so that's after my frost date has ended, and I'll do that for a few weeks, get some harvest there before I transplant my tomato plants in June. So what you're doing there is you're using up leftover space and maximizing your growing area here.